Hello, I'm Ken Bennett, moderator for a debate between Alan Sturtz, 3rd Selectman in North Haven, and Sally Buemi, who is challenging Mr. Sturtz for the position of 3rd Selectman. Both candidates belong to the Democratic Party. The office of 3rd Selectman in North Haven is always held by the minority party, and at this time the minority party in town is the Democratic Party. Questions were prepared by the League of Women Voters of Hamden, North Haven. The League of Women Voters neither supports nor opposes candidates for public office. The League focuses on providing opportunities to hear the candidates so that citizens have an idea of whom they'd like to manage the affairs of their town. The League invites men and women of all political persuasions who wish to work on invigorating civic health in North Haven to join the League. You can leave a message at membership@lwvct.org. The candidates will have 3 minutes for their opening statements, and according to the rules, after their statements, I will ask the candidates a series of questions. The first candidate to answer a question has up to 1.5 minutes to state his or her position. The opponent then has 2.5 minutes to respond. Then the first candidate will have 1 minute for a rebuttal. The question period will be followed by closing statements from the candidates. The order of the candidates' opening and closing statements was determined earlier by a coin toss. Incumbent Alan Sturtz now will give his opening statement. Mr. Sturtz.
Hello, I'm Alan Sturtz, 3rd Selectman for the town of North Haven. I've been serving on the Board of Selectmen since December of 2011. Prior to that, my town service has included a 2-year term as tax collector and town clerk. I believe that I am qualified to continue as your 3rd Selectman. My type of governance is cooperative and bipartisan. I believe in cooperating with the other party in the best interests of the town of North Haven. Obviously I'm a resident of North Haven, and I feel that all of my actions on the board, the votes on all major and minor issues, reflect my status in the town, and I feel that the decisions that I've made are decisions that I could live with as a resident. I look forward to continuing for the next 2 years and working with the current administration to improve the town economically, with regard to its educational needs, and with regard to all of the other departments in the town. Thank you.
Challenger Sally Buemi will now give her opening statement. Ms. Buemi.
Thank you. Well, first I'd like to thank NHTV and the League of Women Voters for arranging this debate on such short notice. First, I'd like to start with a little background about myself. I'm a lifelong North Haven resident, educated in the North Haven school systems. I've been a practicing attorney here in town for the past 28 years. I have a bachelor's and master's degree from UConn, and my law degree is from Western New England College. I served on the Board of Finance for 4 years and on the Community Services Commission for about 2 years. I have a long history of community involvement here in North Haven, including many years as a girls softball coach and also as a volunteer for the Boy Scouts here in North Haven. In the last 2 years, I've become increasingly frustrated with low voter turnout, not only in the budget referendums, but also in the last municipal election, which was in 2011, where the voter turnout was only 41%. I had to go back 30 years, and I still didn't see a turnout in a municipal election that low. Our town charter guarantees minority party representation on all boards and commissions to facilitate and engage and promote discourse of the issues. A healthy two-party system is essential in our democracy at all levels of government. However, here in North Haven, I believe that the two-party system is failing. Complacency and apathy has taken over. And I think regardless of your political affiliation, everyone would agree that that is not in the best interest of the town. There is no real discussion of the issues. And for me, the last straw was when the Democratic Town Committee failed to nominate a candidate for first selectman in this year's municipal election. To me, that's like throwing in the towel. In late July, I read an article in the North Haven Citizen, and my opponent, Mr. Sturtz, stated that the minority party representative on the Board of Selectmen has a function to serve as watchdog over the majority. I agree 100% with that. In the same article, he admitted there were few reasons to raise concerns. I strongly disagree with that. I believe I could be a more effective voice on the Board of Selectmen. I have the experience and motivation to help restore a two-party system. No one person can change everything overnight, but with healthy, productive debate, maybe more people will get involved, more people might vote, and in the long run, in 2015, we might have a full slate of candidates for the Democrats. One goal of the town government is not just to find a solution, but the best solution. I think this can only be accomplished with respectful, open discussion. This is why I petitioned for the primary, and I ask for your support on September 10th. Thank you.
Now for our first question to incumbent Alan Sturtz. As third selectman, how would you handle your Democratic Party's priority differences with the first and second selectmen who are Republicans?
I think that would depend on what the particular issue might be. What's happened in the past has been, while not at the table, it has been open discussion between myself and Mr. Frieda and/or Mr. Buemi. I've been consulted on most of the major policy issues that have come up, and also for a lot of the openings on boards and commissions. I think this healthy discussion prior to the meetings has led to a smoother running government and has raised the level of respect between the two parties.
Sally Buemi, challenger, your response.
Well, for me, again, the top priority is to engage in healthy debate of the issues. And that's what I think has been lacking. And when you watch the Board of Selectmen meetings on NHTV, which it provides a great service, I believe, to the community. All of the meetings are broadcast on television, and that is a great way for people to stay involved. When you watch those meetings, those meetings are totally dominated by the majority party. I believe that as the Democratic third selectman, I would like to see an adjustment in the agenda. Right now, there's a standing agenda item which allows for the first selectman to give an overview near the beginning of the meeting. And I think it's a very effective way, and Mr. Frieda has routinely informed the citizens of the town about various issues. But I think that it would be appropriate for there to be a standing agenda item after that for the minority party representative to be able to respond if appropriate. I'm not saying that I want every Board of Selectmen meeting to be a debate, but I think there should be an opportunity for the minority party representative to respond to the items that are reviewed by the first selectman in his overview. And of course, in deference to Mr. Frieda's position as first selectman, he would have the opportunity to respond to any comments that I would make as third selectman. And I think this would only add 5 or 6 minutes to the meeting, but I think it would be a good idea to effectuate what my campaign is all about, which is healthy debate of the issues in a back and forth sense. And that would be a priority for me on the Board of Selectmen.
Mr. Sturtz, your rebuttal.
Again, if you watch the Board of Selectmen meetings on NHTV, you will see that for every issue that I have a chance to speak up, to state my opinion on particular issues, to rebut or to ask questions of the first selectman of anything that he mentions, and also that very often you look during the meeting and the first selectman asks if I have any comments to make.
Our second question. Do you agree with the policy of raising taxes and ending with end-of-the-year surpluses? Challenger, Sally Buemi.
Well, in my tenure on the Board of Selectmen, even though it was years ago, some of the issues that confronted me as a Board of Finance member back then are still very much at issue today. In fact, a couple of days ago, I met with the finance director, Mr. Swinkowski, and I was telling him that as a member of the Board of Finance, I was always frustrated that we never knew exactly how much money was coming in from the state of Connecticut under the education cost sharing plan. And Mr. Swinkowski sort of smiled at me and he said, that's still a problem. And so I think the biggest issue that confronts the budget process is estimating revenue. And I think that in recent years, especially when we've had very high surpluses, there has been an underestimation of the revenue, and that this has caused an increase in taxes. Now, I acknowledge that increases in taxes are often necessary. It's just the reality of the situation. But during Mr. Frieda's tenure in 4 years as our first selectman, we've had 3 tax increases. And this last one, for this current fiscal year, seemed a bit high for me. And I just think that we need to better evaluate the revenue side of the budget to avoid excessive mill rate increases.
Incumbent Alan Sturtz, your response.
And I agree wholeheartedly. The taxes are set a year in advance based on the best information that's available. And unfortunately, during the fiscal year, there's no mechanism to adjust the tax rate. Once it's set, it's set. Again, we have no control over revenue. If it doesn't come in, then we're shocked with a deficit. If it does come in or additional revenue comes in that was unexpected, then there's always the hue and cry that the taxes were set too high. Having been tax collector, I know the difficulties involved, and the best that we can do is to try to meet the budget. If there is a surplus, then it's always been recommended from the minority party that the surplus go towards lowering the next year's taxes, if possible. I think that's hopefully what's going to happen this year. That's what I will speak for on the board. Mr. Frieda did mention that there were additional money that came in the last fiscal year that's being held aside. And hopefully, if it's not spent on necessities for the town, that we will include this in developing the budget for the next fiscal year.
Ms. Buemi, your rebuttal.
Well, I think that it would be very prudent for the Board of Selectmen to impress upon our state representatives, Mr. Iaccarino and Mr. Fasano, to see what power they could affect at the state level so that all municipalities, including North Haven, can find out exactly what the money coming in from the state is at an earlier time. Again, when I was talking to Mr. Swinkowski, he said it would be great if we knew by March 31st. So maybe there's a way that at the state level, our representatives can try to make a point that it would really help the municipal budget process if we knew more information before we set our mill rate, which I think this past year was excessive. And as far as lowering taxes, I've never seen that happen.
For our third question, first to Alan Sturtz, should the third selectman have a say regarding the issues in union negotiations? And if so, how would you, as third selectman, make sure that you would have that say?
As a member of the Board of Selectmen, I was involved in discussions of the various contracts as they came forward. This was done in executive session. Union contract negotiations are handled by attorneys for the town, and I think the closest involvement is just with the first selectman. Afterwards, before a vote on the contract comes in, we, three of us sit down with the attorney and discuss the contract, and we're given a chance to question any items that may seem untoward or out of line, and make our changes there and then. I don't believe that it is the role of the entire board to be involved in the negotiations. This is set by state law, and I think that I have a good involvement in the process as it currently stands.
Ms. Buemi, your response.
I think the third selectman should be involved in the negotiation process. Again, back to my main theme of my campaign, which is a healthy and engaging discussion of the issues. I believe that the more points of view that you have on a particular issue, the better chance you'll have of reaching a proper solution that would certainly be in the best interest of the town. And I feel, based on my professional experience and my familiarity with the town, that I would have a lot to offer and to bring to such a table. And I would look forward to the challenge of working with the first selectman in that endeavor.
Mr. Sturtz, your rebuttal.
With all due respect, I don't believe that is our role. I was involved in contract negotiations in previous employment, and it was done by a negotiating team, not by any of the executive officers on either side. The results of each meeting goes back to the institution, and in this case to the Board of Selectmen, and we have our input there and then. I think too many voices at the table only tends to confuse things.
Our fourth question to Ms. Buemi. Many union contracts have been lingering for years. Why is that? Do you have any suggestions for dealing with unresolved union contracts?
Well, I think that the most effective way is for all parties to, I mean, there's many situations in our society where union contracts often take years to decide, and it's up to the first selectman in conjunction with the Board of Selectmen to inspire and hopefully facilitate proper negotiations that will reach a settlement that will be beneficial to the town as well as to the unions.
Mr. Sturtz, your response.
Yeah, I'm not sure why it takes as long as it does to resolve some of these contracts. We all know how long the contract period is, and if there are issues that are developing during the course of the contract, then I would recommend that the negotiations start earlier than they have been, so that there's a very good chance that the negotiating period will end before the expiration of the contract. Also, I'm not aware of what particular issues are in there. Some of them are historical and probably would take a longer time to resolve. And you know, I'm always available if the first selectman needs any consultation on any issues. I always have been, and I think that you know, we do the best we can, and just constantly pushing forward and asking what the status is of the contracts respectfully can move the process forward.
Ms. Buemi, your rebuttal.
Yes. Well, if I were fortunate enough to be elected as the third selectman, I would make it my responsibility to be more informed regarding the technical specific issues that are holding up any contract negotiations. And again, I feel I have a lot to offer as far as advice to Mr. Frieda and to anyone else in the process to help effectuate a fair and reasonable resolution to the issues that are obviously stickling points here in the process.
Our fifth question, first to Alan Sturtz. Do you think it is important for the department head manual to be up to date? Would you invest time in seeing that the manual is updated? Does the department head manual have an impact on how our town is run?
I would hope that that all the manuals, as the contracts would be up to date, and that Mr. Frieda and the departments would be doing as best as they can to make sure all the proper issues are addressed. Again, I'm not sure that this is an item for the third selectman. This is the internal running of town government, and this is one of the areas where I feel that there's more advice that can be given if there's a problem, rather than the executive development of the department head manuals. Not to have them up to date, of course, could possibly jeopardize the effectiveness of running the town. So I think that that they should be continually reviewed.
Sally Buemi, your response.
Yes, I would agree that these manuals should be updated on a regular basis. The laws are constantly changing at both the state and federal level, employment laws that affect the workplace, and so obviously it would be beneficial for these manuals to be reviewed to make sure that all of our employment policies are in compliance with all applicable laws. And again, it's a very complex area of the law. It's ever changing, and so it would certainly be prudent to make reasonable and regular evaluations to make sure the town is in compliance with all appropriate regulations.
Mr. Sturtz, rebuttal?
No rebuttal.
Okay. Our sixth question, to challenger Sally Buemi. Seeing that the third selectman belongs to a different political party than the first and second selectman, should the third selectman be informing North Haven residents when his or her proposals and opinions are not taken into account by the other two selectmen?
Yes, I think it would be very important for the third selectman to keep all of the citizens of North Haven informed regarding the process of how the Board of Selectmen operates. Under our charter, the Board of Selectmen is the primary administrative body for town affairs. And if I felt that my opinions and input were somehow being ignored, I think that would be very important for all the citizens to know, not just members of my party. If I am successful in my petition, in my primary, which I feel very confident that I will be, I would feel an obligation to keep all of the citizens of North Haven informed if any such circumstances should arise, because my entire campaign platform is based on healthy, open debate with respectful and vital and active discussion of the issues. And if I felt that was failing, it would be certainly my obligation to bring it to the attention of the citizens.
Alan Sturtz, your response?
And I couldn't agree more. I guess fortunately, over the last 2 years, that situation has not availed itself. At every meeting, any opinion that I had was accepted, decided, and discussed, and taken into account. Voting record shows that on all major issues, that I felt confident in the resolution that was brought forward, and supported it. If at any time it appeared that my opinions were not allowed to come to the table or were completely ignored rather than discussed, then yes, I think at the Board of Selectmen table, the entire town would see what was happening. And I would just continue to push for more acceptance. But as I said, we've had a good working relationship the past 2 years, and this situation just has not come up.
Ms. Buemi, your rebuttal?
Well, I've been a loyal follower of the Board of Selectmen meetings on NHTV, and I just have not seen any evidence at those meetings of any effective, engaging discussion of the issues. And for example, at the end of the meetings, there is the ever-popular public comment. I think everyone looks forward to that part of the Board of Selectmen meeting because it's the most informative and certainly the most entertaining. And I believe it's important for the third selectman to actively participate in the public comment portion of the Board of Selectmen meetings. And I've seen them all, and I have not seen my opponent participate in any significant way in answering any questions. And in fact, I believe that sometimes Mr. Frieda gives misleading statements, and our third selectman has not served any watchdog function in correcting his misleading statements.
Our seventh question, first to Alan Sturtz. In your opinion, should the third selectman be an advocate for North Haven with the state Democrats?
Yes, and also with the state Republicans and anybody else that has any kind of participation with the town. We get support when and where we can from our local representative and state senator, and I don't believe that we are shut out of the process. I've spoken with Mr. Iaccarino, I've spoken with Mr. Fasano on various occasions about what's going on in state government, and my views have been accepted, and I'm pretty confident that they were considered in any debate that was going on. Of course, I wouldn't have the same impact that the first selectman would, and it might also be a lot different if one or both of those state officials were from the Democratic Party.
Sally Buemi, your response?
Of course, it would be important for the third selectman as a Democrat to be an advocate with state Democrats. Any cooperation from any level of government that would benefit the town is what I would be in favor of. My primary responsibility and my primary advocacy is to the town of North Haven. I have no allegiances to any other political committee or special interest. My only interest is whatever is best for the town of North Haven. And if a positive rapport with state Democrats will improve the standing of North Haven, then I would certainly advocate in that manner.
Mr. Sturtz, any rebuttal?
No.
Okay, on our eighth question, directed first to Sally Buemi. If elected, what would you like to accomplish in the next 2 years?
Well, the first thing I would like to accomplish is try, in my own way, as best I can, to restore some semblance of a two-party system here in North Haven. As I said in my opening remarks, I believe that a two-party system is essential in our democracy at any level of government, and we just don't have that here. And I think with more engaging and active and respectful discussion of the issues, that maybe more people will get involved and maybe hopefully more people will vote. My primary reason for entering politics again was my frustration with low voter turnout. So I would think it a great accomplishment if I could restore the budget referendums to the 25 to 30% turnout that we used to see in the 1995 to 2005 area. I'm very disappointed in the low voter turnout, and I think it's a symptom of a lack of active and engaging discourse of the issues. One problem feeds the other. And so I would consider that my best accomplishment. Also, if I were on the Board of Selectmen, I would never allow an important referendum to take place in the dead of winter, like what we had in January of 2012.
Alan Sturtz, your response?
Yes. Working backwards from my opponent's comments, I had not been elected. Excuse me. Had not been elected to the Board of Selectmen when that date for the January referendum was set, and I really don't feel that that I should be blamed for having it in January. The other issue on the single location referendum, the same, if not more people came out to vote for the May 2013 referendum as did for the 2012 in 5 districts. The advantage of having the single district was, one, that the 4 elementary schools did not have to be disrupted, and also it saved the town close to $10,000. So a higher turnout and saving the town money and not disrupting the schools, I think that's 3 positive areas. Also, the recommendation for a single place was advocated by both the Republican and the Democratic Registrar of Voters. As far as what I would do in my second term, I would continue to urge full participation on all town boards and commissions. We all on the Board of Selectmen asked the townspeople to please be involved. We announce the openings at every meeting, and we do feel that the town can take more part in the government. I would work for continued economic development of the town, and as I said in my acceptance address and in the article in the paper, I would work to revise the town charter so that there would be more people, more members on the Board of Selectmen, and that the minority and the majority party would be able to speak without forcing a quorum of the board.
Ms. Buemi, your rebuttal.
Thank you. Regarding the one polling place issue for budget referendums, I've had many discussions with people on this issue, and every time I've talked about it, I have acknowledged that there are meritorious arguments on both sides of the issue. However, the 2 primary reasons that were given to me by the first selectman for one polling place for the budget referendums was to save money and school security. Well, first, I don't think the savings is anywhere near $10,000. I think it's much less than that. And second, regarding school security, at the rec center the day of the budget referendum, there were 30 to 50 daycare and nursery school students there. So isn't their security also important? So I'm going to favor slightly benefiting, facilitating voting on this particular issue.
We've reached our final question, and we'll go first to Alan Sturtz, the incumbent. What would you like the voters to know about you?
I would like you all to know that I am a team player, that my interests are the best interests of the town of North Haven, for myself, for my family, for my neighbors and friends, that very often politics may get in the way of sometimes doing the right thing, and I try not to play politics. I just try to deal with the individual issues. I've heard and I've often repeated that we can accomplish almost anything as long as people don't care who gets all the credit for it. A good idea is a good idea. A good policy is a good policy, whether it comes from Republican, Democrat, or in many cases our unaffiliated voters.
Sally Buemi, what would you like the voters to know about you?
Well, again, I've been a lifelong North Haven resident, and I believe that I can contribute in a positive way to help my town, which I love so much, to meet the challenges that currently confront it. And I want to go back to the one polling place issue, if I can, because it's an interesting issue. As I was saying earlier, I don't think the savings is that much. And regarding school security, that's of course an important issue. But I believe that with one police officer at the location of each school, that security can be accounted for. And another thing that comes to my mind when I think about the one polling place issue is the millions of our veterans who fought in so many wars, and our current military men and women who are now fighting to protect our freedom. I think about them because one of our most basic freedoms is our right to vote. And so if it's a close issue, I'm going to tip the scales slightly in favor of doing everything I can to facilitate the right to vote. And I think that one polling place makes it difficult for the elderly to get to the polling places. It might not be difficult for someone who lives on Elm Street. That's the rec center is their normal polling place. But for an elderly person who lives on Todd Drive or Half Mile Road, it's quite a trek. And a lot of elderly people don't like to drive very far. And if there's bad weather, a heavy rainstorm, I think that one polling place does have a negative impact. And as far as comparing the 2013 budget referendum, as far as turnout goes, to the 2012, you can't compare it. It's apples and oranges. There was no tax increase in 2012. In 2013, there was an increase. So yes, there was a couple hundred people more to vote, but to say that because more people voted, that shows that one polling place had no impact, it just doesn't make any sense to me. And again, I think our right to vote is such an essential part of our freedom that so many people fought and sacrificed for. And if it costs a few $1,000s more, I don't think it's anywhere near 10. If it costs a few $1,000s more, then I think it's a price well paid in comparison to the price that our veterans paid to ensure that we had that right to vote.
Mr. Sturtz, rebuttal.
And I could not agree more on my opponent's last statement. However, as I've said at many Board of Selectmen meetings, democracy is a participative event. It is not a spectator sport. And also, I know that if anyone ever needs a ride to get to the polls, whether it be the single polling place for the referendum or to the polling place in your particular district, all they need to do is call the registrar of voters or either of the town parties, and transportation will be provided. It's always been like that. I want the people to know that I do stand up for their rights and privileges as set out in the Constitution of the state.
It is now time for the candidates to give their closing statements. Incumbent Alan Sturtz, your closing statement, please.
Well, there have been a lot of questions and a lot of answers this afternoon. I am going to stand on my record, on the participation that you've seen for the last 16 months on NHTV from the Board of Selectmen meetings, that I have been involved in town government. Very often, the consultation that goes on behind the scenes through telephone calls or special meetings in which the three selectmen discuss the issues and bring a united front to the town. I think it's a lot better for the town to see that than constant bickering. Not healthy. I do agree healthy debate is good if it's necessary, but I only see it coming up if there are issues that aren't anticipated before the meeting. As far as the public comment period at the Board of Selectmen, all of those comments are usually directed right to the first selectman, and very often relates to work that he's done rather than anything that the Board of Selectmen has done. I really cannot remember people coming up and saying that the Board of Selectmen should have done this or should have done that. It's always at the first selectman. Same thing was true 4 years ago when Janet McCarty was first selectman. All of the public comments were directed at her. I would like to continue to serve as your third selectman. I think that I've done a good job for the town, and I intend to continue to do that same job in the coming 2 years. I thank you very much. As I said before, democracy is not a spectator sport, and I urge all townspeople to please come to the polls on September 10th.
Turning now to challenger Sally Buemi, your closing statement.
Well, before I give my closing statement, I just want to say that I am certainly in favor of working in a positive and constructive way with the majority members of the Board of Selectmen. It would never be my intention to disagree just for the sake of disagreeing. That would be counterproductive, and that's not my style of discussing issues and debating ideas. But in closing, first I would like to thank all of the registered Democrats in North Haven who signed my petition, enabling me, that was 244 registered Democrats, that enabled me to enter into this primary. This past month, I've had an amazing experience going door to door, meeting as many fellow Democrats as I can. And certainly in 1 month, I haven't been able to go to every door, but I've gone to all corners of the town and to all 5 districts. And I've had wonderful conversations with people on their porches about issues that concern them in town government. And I've enjoyed being invited into homes, and I've learned that there are many people in town who are very artistic and creative. And I also learned that small dogs are actually much more territorial than large dogs. And another thing I've observed is that North Haven has many great residential neighborhoods, and they all have distinct personalities, like the great neighborhood up on the ridge, Buell and Bayard, and Wayland Street, or in the center, we have Shawmut and Standish and Samoset. And then there's up Surrey Hill, the Sentinel Hill, Bunker Hill, Minuteman Drive neighborhood, a fabulous neighborhood. And then there's the old neighborhoods in Monowese on Fitch Street and Manor Drive. And then, of course, there's the Grove, which is very near and dear to my heart because I grew up on St. John Street, and as a kid, the Grove was the place to go for trick-or-treating. And so I've really enjoyed meeting all of these people throughout the town. And I know that I am not the only rank-and-file Democrat frustrated with the direction of the Democratic Party. And there are many others who are hopeful, as I am, that more engaging debate can reach better solutions for the town. And so the last thing I discovered is whether you live on Culver Lane or Summer Lane or Kings Highway or Postman's Highway, everybody is working as hard as they can to make North Haven, to make their lives and the lives of their families as best as possible. And likewise, I'm looking forward to working hard as the minority party representative on the Board of Selectmen to encourage healthy debate and open discussions to help my hometown meet the challenges of the future. And I ask all fellow Democrats, because please remember, only Democrats are eligible to vote in the primary, and I ask all Democrats to support me on September 10th. And don't forget, all 5 polling places will be open.
Thank you, Mr. Sturtz. Thank you, Ms. Buemi. You've now had the opportunity to hear the 2 candidates for the position of 3rd Selectman in North Haven here on NHTV. Now it is up to registered Democrats to vote in the primary and select the one who, in your opinion, will be a more effective manager of our town's affairs. The primary will be held at all 5 North Haven Voting District polling places on Tuesday, September 10th, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. For NHTV, I'm Ken Bennett. Thank you for watching.